Welcome YouTubers and fellow tankers. I am Shrine King and this is King's Court Reviews, and today we're going to talk about World of Tanks, their Halloween event, more particularly to player versus enemy style gameplay. So Wargaming decided to try something a little different, and it's definitely kind of interesting. So I'm gonna give a full-on review of what I thought about it, what was good, what was bad, and stuff like that, and then whether or not it's something like we hope to see maybe in the future or not. So for this Halloween, they made an event where you have an overall mission, but it was also a other game style or game type event that you can play that allowed you to go and get green matter, where you are fighting against AI as a team of 5. So it helps like work with, basically working with each other. So the thing here is they give you an MT-25, which is a light tank and small tank, fast. An interesting one too because like it can actually deflect shots, stuff like that. And then for the enemies in it, when they spawn, they have basically hit points, but not like the typical hit points we're used to. So instead they have like tick mark hit points, and the idea is you got to hit them multiple times basically to kill them. So you'll see here I'm just roaming around grabbing the green matter, and now the whole thing is that you have to return the green matter to your base. Now lessons are easily learned very early on when you start this stuff, so here you'll see I end up flipping over. I was under the assumption that, hey, I could have flipped over and it would have been okay, but it didn't really matter anyway. So as a team though, right, you have to get this green matter and you have to go put it into basically the home base by delivering it. And then as long as you deliver it, as a team, you get all the same amount of green matter. And then as you can see here, there is basically a overall event where you have levels up to 13, and you'll see that you get um, experience to the tank, and then you get free experience, and you'll see it even tells you like what you're getting from the event, and then what you have like if you have a premium account, and then it tells you what it would have been if you had maximum. So as you can see, if I had maximum, I'd have gotten 48 free experience instead of 40, which I mean that's not that big of a difference, but the experience that you get on the tank, because it's just a you know basically random tank, the MT Revenant here. Um, and then you'll see here there's these events where one of them, the weekly, right, gives you 15,000 free experience. So the nice part about this, right, so let me go into kind of like pros of this overall. One, it's not necessarily competitive, right? The way that they set it up, everybody basically gets the same. So, and there's nothing to even say like who delivered the most or anything like that. So there really is no competition. Um, and I really tip my hat to them for that. That was really interesting. Then on top of that, you're talking about this is something where you can earn experience. Well, you earn free experience, right? But you also earn experience on the tank. Now, I like that. It's cool, and it makes sense for this event as something to test. So that part definitely very cool. And then having the whole event part where it was like you unlock certain levels, and that was then boosting the amount of experience you would gain. So like by those levels, it was supposed to make it to where you earn extra like everything, right? You get extra silver, extra experience on your other tanks. So like if I were to not play in this mode, I go play the other mode, I would actually gain more for it. The model where we're talking about having this model where it's like, okay, you have the random chance of something to spawn and having these ticks rather than overall hit points. I thought it was a really nice touch. I thought it was a very big pro. Um, do I think it would work in any other kind of model? Probably not. The Halloween event where it's basically ghosts, basically the dead coming back to life. That works. That makes sense. That's cool. And as you can see here, like for example, those heavies, they do a lot of damage. Um, so cons, right? I mean, I'm talking about the pros, but let's also include cons here. And I might have to go back and forth, and and it's more just for the thought process, right? So on the con side, while it is player versus enemy, there isn't anything that really makes it to where people are particularly really trying to work together. So if you already had a bunch of friends and stuff like that, that's cool. But on the random parties, a lot of cases people did not work together. And the sad part is this thing really, really benefits from working together. Um, the prospects of I'm going to earn experience on this said tank, which is not a real tank in the game, and then I would have to like use conversions basically to get the experience off the tank so that I can use it on other tanks. That's not really cool, right? To me, it would have been better if it was like we could use particular tanks of our own, maybe ones that we really enjoy, maybe ones that we don't enjoy, and we're trying to get experience towards it. But considering the event and the purpose of this event and stuff like that, and the design that they're kind of going for, I do understand where they're going. So I wouldn't say that's necessarily like a major con, but it's just as a player, that's what I would consider as a con. Um, the flip over, right? So if you get flipped over, and honestly, most of the time, so same thing, right? Most of the times you don't have people running with you, so it ends up being a situation where, yeah, you got flipped over, no one's gonna come help you, so you're just gonna die anyway. Um, yeah, that part really kind of sucks. That I would actually consider a big con. But overall, I would say I thought this was great. I was really happy that they did something like this. I was actually curious why we don't have like a PvE mode at all. So I know that they're kind of testing this out, and I'm hoping that this actually becomes a more feasible model where maybe we'll have um, teams of people basically going into situations where maybe they have to fight like wave survival or something like that, and you can earn experience on the tank, and free experience, uh, and silver, and everything else, but maybe not as much as you do in PvP. Like I'm all for that. Maybe it's even something where, hey, you can't even do premium tanks in it. It's only normal tanks, and that way it's just to help you get through some of these tanks that are just horrendous, maybe. Like the Tiger P, if you don't know about that tank. I hate that tank. But other than that, like, honestly, this was very cool. I was very happy that they did an event like this. I would say, if anything, if I was giving more of a user-based review, I thought it was kind of crappy that they did this whole model where it was like, hey, if you don't want to play this mode and you want to unlock the benefits, no problem, just give me money. That just seemed like another way for Wargaming to just take more money from us for whatever reason. Um, and I'm not necessarily a big fan of that. I would have rather it been, hey, you only get it through this, you earn what you earn, and then just go with that. Because honestly, like, I think it was within day one, I already saw numerous accounts where people had already just paid the money, went for the full thing. Now, that said, in all retrospect, right, I actually did really appreciate that they made it to where the gold value kept decreasing significantly day by day. Or, yeah, pretty sure it was day by day. Maybe, yeah, pretty sure it was day by day. So, I think it was like by day 4 or 5, it went from costing like 5,000 something gold to about 1,800. And I think it kind of depended on how much of the stuff you actually unlocked too. So I was already like level 3 or level 4 by the time I actually went ahead and purchased. And the main reason being was having the full was, I mean, you're talking about 50% bonus to like everything in the game. So, and that was like for days. So that valued a lot higher than just waiting it out to only have it for like a couple days after they unlock. Because the way they were doing it was they had this unlocking of every day, basically. So first day you can only unlock level 1, right? So basically by the 13th day you can have 13, and this lasted like 16 days, something like that. So you'd only get like 3 days of the maximum value, or you pay the money, which, so, and that's the other thing, was like, even if I wanted to earn it, I wouldn't get the same value if someone spent the money. So it just made it a larger emphasis for people to spend the money. I am not a big fan of that. I kind of wish instead they would have had it where, hey, right out the door, you can unlock levels 1 through 13. You grind it as much as you want, however you wish. If you unlock 13 all in the same day, amazing, great job, good for you, right? And then go from there. And the same thing is like, honestly, if that's really the case, and they had the weeklies, if you think about it, the weekly 7 days, you got another 7 days, right, for the second weekly, and then they did like a partial weekly one, for the third set. Um, and then there's a certain value for that. I would have just made those immediately open, right? So kind of like the other missions that they have in the tanks, where it's progressive. So you just basically say, okay, here I got through 1, and I got through 2, and then finish the 3rd, and I got my free experience for it, and you're all done from there, right? So that way, it's like the amount of time that you're expected to play to this, you really would just play to it and call it a day. So, yeah, the whole money part of it, not really a fan of it. And you'll see there on the right, it's showing like the bonus credits, bonus experience, bonus to free experience. This is all around, right, to everything on there. Now, one thing I will say is, if people weren't aware or maybe didn't think through it as they're going through this event, um, I really already kind of knew that as this was going, especially since it was like, hey, you're going to accumulate a bunch of free experience on this Revenant. I also knew that because of that, they were probably going to do a sale on free experience. So bear that in mind when you see stuff like that, especially when it says there's so many days. Be patient and wait, and eventually you should see it. Now, with that said, don't always expect it to be a scenario where, like, for example, like 7 days in, they give you, conversion rate of like, let's say, 10 to 1, and then 14 days in, it's gonna be 20 to 1, right? And 16 days in, it's 30 to 1. No, it's most likely they're gonna do one sale, and that'll be really it. And that's actually what they did for a while. What was interesting is they didn't do what I thought they were gonna do. I thought it was going to be really close to the end. Here you go. Good job, right? And there's a bunch there. Uh, no, they didn't really do that at all. They did it like in the middle of it, and then it lasted like a week or something like that, and then they stopped. Um, kind of threw me off. So overall, though, like I said, I liked the design. I did like that they had it where it was the one tank. Made sense based on how they were doing it for this model. Um, but like I'm really hoping to see stuff like this more in the game, just not in this model of like pay us money for a couple like to get a bonus for a couple weeks. And then when we said that you can earn it, when really it wouldn't make any sense to try to really earn it because the value is so lost when trying to earn it in comparison. And then still have it where like you had the same model, like you can basically perform or do certain things and then have it where you get rewards. And I mean, this is like missions and stuff like that. Like maybe you can have daily missions for PvE, and I mean, you just run that. Like I said, you do it on normal tanks only, right? No premiums. I mean, really, what's the point if it's PvE? And that makes like a challenge point. That way you can also learn those tanks, maybe get better with those tanks. I mean, it helps you just unlock stuff because hey, for example, I would really hate to continuously go into a match frickin' stock, or have other players who are coming into the match frickin' stock, and always get smashed because too many players are stock, and then they don't know even how to play the tank, and they don't know how to play it with their stock equipment. So I wouldn't mind seeing something like that. I think that would be great. So the key thing here, ladies and gents, is if you have time, please, they do they do have a forum. You just go to World of Tanks and you go to the community, you say forums, and then once you're in the forums, you'll see parts where they're talking about like reviews of things that they've released or done. Please do a review. Please tell them your thoughts on it. If you really like it, recommend it, right? Tell them like, hey, this was great, but if you can, right, also take the time to make certain recommendations, such as like what I'm saying here is like I noticed like, hey, they went this model, it was a good model, but something I would really like to see is having it where there is a real PvE mode, maybe particular style or focus, and give them your ideas, right? I mean, I highly doubt any of you are intending to make another game where you're going to then try to implement those ideas and make profits off of it. So there's nothing really wrong with giving them some of those ideas, and hopefully we will see those ideas. I do know that I made a recommendation from their missions, right? And they actually did implement one of my ideas, and I was really happy to see that. Now that's I put the idea there, and they might have already thought of it, but who knows? So anyway, I hope you guys like this. This is kind of different. This was more of just a review of a particular event. In the future, I'm going to try to make sure to get these reviews out earlier, because I mean this is afterwards. But for those watching, happy Halloween, and I will catch you again.